Hey SRA 111, we are Group 5 members Jasmine Young, Stephen Wagner, Raja Dumala, and myself, Raquel Barrios, focusing on the topic of risk management and risk assessment. Risk management is one of the most overlooked aspects in security and risk analysis, and even in a part of our daily lives. We will go more in depth with the pointing question throughout the presentation and begin to show you how failure to apply management and assessment of risk can threaten and ultimately devastate even the most valuable of assets. First, let's establish the true definition of what risk management is. In any organization, there is always a hazard involved in the way we perform and handle things, hence why risk is the main cause of uncertainty. Risk management is the process of identifying these risks, assessing its relative magnitude, and taking steps to reduce it to an acceptable level. This type of process can be applied to any situation. For instance, let's say your house gets broken into. Owning a house implies the risk of damage, burglary, and other hazards. However, having home insurance implies that you are taking precautions and steps to reduce the risk of losing assets from your owned property. Risk management has three major facets: risk identification, risk management, and risk control. For this presentation, we are only going to focus on the risk assessment aspect of things. Now, what is risk assessment, you ask? It is a determination of the extent to which an organization's information assets are regulated to an acceptable behavior. If many people or organizations knew how to manage and attain knowledge of these risks, it is a known fact that they would act more confidently on crucial matters such as decision-making and operate more smoothly and securely. In order to assess how much risk is exposed on an asset, as well as avoid loss of valuables, we must first calculate the factors of risk. Risk is determined by multiplying the loss of frequency and the loss magnitude plus the uncertainty of the estimates of all stated values. Organizations absolutely need to evaluate the risk of their assets in order to best gauge the risk to each vulnerability. Matter of fact, let's have a look at what countries are more susceptible to cyber attacks. As you can see, the number one country that holds the world's most attack traffic is China, with about 41% of hackers hacking from there. What this list clearly points out is that the foreign attackers compared to the US are about 90% higher in number. This is a huge risk to the United States information assets, considering that only 10% of attacker traffic is domestic. To further exemplify the vulnerability of America's information assets, consider these statistics from heritage.org. In the US, there are 160 successful cyber attacks per week, costing nearly $65 million just in 2015 alone. Compared to 2010, the average has increased more than 3 times the weekly attacks of 2015 because of the relatively high risk in the United States. Organizations such like the CIA go about calculating the relative risk of each vulnerable asset in a very complex and thorough manner. Unfortunately, assessing the relative risk is most often overlooked.
Hacked the private email account of the CIA director. How did you do that?
Well, we have most of his personal information, like his name, address, phone number, social security number, and other things. And when we social engineered, we manipulated AOL to do the password reset on the account. We socially engineered Verizon, and then we socially engineered to get his last 4 details on his bank account.
This is true, and it's true that you guys have actually broken into his private email account. How difficult would you say it is?
You mean out of 10?
Sure, out of 10.
1.
1.
Hey, it's John Smith. My rep number is 4987, and I'm fixing John Brennan's phone. I just need some information, including social and his password to his email.
Last October, a group of hackers successfully breached the personal email of CIA Director John Brennan. The hackers claimed to have gathered his personal information, for instance his name, home address, social security number, and other valuables. The hackers even manipulated AOL to do a password reset on his personal account, locking John out of his own email. As you can see, such like in an example shown with the hacker gathering information via cell phone, it is relatively effortless for most hackers to extract valuables from a source. However, since this incident, the CIA has grown stronger in protecting the information of their agency. They have developed an intelligence collection strategy and created special training opportunities for their workers involving in that technical discipline. These protocols are not just limited to the CIA, but can also be implemented by fellow citizens. Simple practices like distinguishing scans can reduce your risk of losing your assets significantly and can prove to be advantageous in the long run.